Hello, hello, hello. We're live, and my name is Donna McCallum. I am so delighted to welcome Jessica Porter to chat with me today about her amazing abundance. And
Mm.
Jess was one of my 7 levels of abundance students in 2020, in like a few months into COVID and Corona. I ran this program. It started in August of 2020, and you're one of the brave ones who was like, yes, take me out of scarcity, sign me up for abundance in this crazy time. And yeah, and you've had some amazing, magical, miraculous transformations in your life. So I'd
Yeah.
love you to share with the people who are thinking about doing this program. Um, where were you at in the middle of 2020? And then what are some of the things that have shifted for you? Like once you've done the program and then now, 2 years later.
Okay. In August of 2020, I had just recently gotten out of a housing situation with a roommate, a friendship of long standing where we decided to be roommates together, which just actually wasn't a great idea ultimately.
Okay.
And the pandemic sort of broke us up. And I was living in someone else's house. And those were things, not the breakup of the friendship, but just the ability to live anywhere I landed, were qualities that I'd had my whole life. And they felt like a certain degree of flexibility, which in that situation was really good. But when we started the 7 levels of abundance and we started to talk about the chakras and principally the root chakra, and the root chakra being about home and place and connectedness to the earth and ancestry, um, I think I experienced like a massive healing in that department. I didn't realize that, that was one of the places in my life that was broken. My parents broke up when I was 18 months old, and it was like root chakra. And in fact, I went back and forth from my mother's house to my father's house my entire life. So
Yeah.
that sort of thing, that flexibility, was also like a wound. So when we started working on the root chakra, I began looking for a house, and boom, I found this place that I'm now sitting in. That, it was a bit of a process getting there, but the process itself around refinancing another property and like having all my ducks in a row and making the offer and having the offer accepted and yada yada.
And getting the money together, right? Because you're in
Right,
LA,
getting to,
and
yes, and getting the
LA
money
is
together.
freaking expensive.
Right. And also what was so interesting is that I asked my father if he would lend me some of the money, I mean, while I got this other property refinanced. And he actually said he wasn't prepared to lend the big amount that I was asking, but he was willing to give me the small amount, that not the small amount, just offered a smaller amount, which at the
Mhm.
time didn't seem like it was going to actually get the deal through. But as a gift from my father, it was like another incredibly abundant root chakra healing. And it turns out that smaller amount of money allowed me to bid more for the house, which got me the deal, which then eventually went through. So the whole process was graced. It was graced. And I say that as somebody who, I've had a lot of grace in my life. I'm a person who's been hooked up to my higher power, or whatever anyone wants to call God, for a long time. But I don't think I'd ever been in a physical process that required, this screw turning and this nail going in and this person showing up and this timing working out perfectly and being held, my hand held by this perfect stranger, ever like that before. Like for instance, my old house that I was getting refinanced needed the appraisal determined that it needed a new roof. And
Mm.
I mean, this came down like 3 days before some final decisions had to be made by the bank. And I called somebody who happened to be driving in the neighborhood of my house that moment. He went and looked while we were on the phone. He quoted me a price. I said yes. He had workers there the next day, and it was done in 24 hours. And it was like,
Just
anyway,
this
I'm not
magic.
saying it felt like magic. I don't know that there's other ways I want to help demonstrate how this worked, and that was a magical process, let me tell you. But there's
Yeah.
there's many other ways in which the abundance occurred. So that
Yeah.
was thing number one. That's where I was in 2020.
So that's where you were in 2020. And what other abundance occurred for you while you were doing the program, through the process of the program? Because it's a 7-month program, right?
Yeah,
Or maybe
a
maybe
lot.
let's even take you like when you were considering doing the program, did you have any hesitations about it?
I mean, on the ground, no, just because I'd taken a couple programs with you and I trusted you implicitly. But the the whole idea of the chakras, like I've been in and around communities that talk chakra my entire adult life, and I have respect. I don't think it's crazy, but I've never actually felt a connection to my actual chakras in any meaningful way. I've had body workers say, "Oh, this is," but so there was a part of me that was a little like, ugh, this is sort of woo woo. Um, I mean, believe me, I'm woo woo. So for me to think it was woo woo was like, ooh. But that was my only hesitation. And I would say for anybody who has that hesitation, it's one of the most practical courses I've ever taken. It's one of the most healing courses I've ever taken, because it's one thing to talk about chakras in an acting class, and it's another thing to spend a month in every chakra, spending an entire month in a part of your body discussing how energy should move through that, like how energy moves through that place emotionally, how it shows up in your life, how that energy could have gotten wounded, how that energy should be flowing if it's healthy, and to do exercises to open it up and write about it. I mean, I really recognized the 3 chakras that for me were deficient and the other chakras that are like easy peasy gimmies. And I began to work on the ones that were deficient and understand why they were deficient. It makes perfect sense why I have issues with them. And as I strengthen those chakras and really understand that it's like we have these 7 keys on a piano, and we're meant to be playing this piano. That's part of, not part of, it is the essence of being human and being alive. And it had all been ideas to me before, and after doing the 7 levels of abundance, like, oh, this is an idea. These are the keys to my piano, and I better learn how they function and how to use them and how to be in them, and send that energy, like be sourced by the universe in that piano, and also send that energy out more clearly and abundantly. So my woo-woo hesitation was completely unfounded.
Yeah. And then in tuning up those 3 keys that were out of tune on your piano, because that's essentially what you're saying, right? There
Yes.
were 4
Yes.
that were completely tonally, vibratingly correct, and then 3 that were like clunk, clunk, clink, clink, clink,
Yeah.
and you're wondering why
Yeah.
you're getting weird results in some areas of your life. Once you've done that tuning, and as you say, it is a very practical program. It's not just woo woo. There are practical exercises for you to do. There are daily exercises for you to do that take 5 minutes a day. There are weekly exercises to do that won't take more than an hour in the week. And there are monthly exercises, a few monthly exercises for you to do. So if you're thinking of joining the program, the whole thing, to do it properly, like I have built incredible abundant spaciousness into this program because I wanted it to feel spacious. I didn't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, crammed and overwhelmed, and I've got a busy life, and now I'm in time scarcity because I've got this program as well on top of my already busy life. And so the whole thing, if you do it like deeply, will take you 8 to 12 hours in the month. That's it. But
That's a
because
long
you,
time to focus on a
yeah,
chakra.
yeah. But if you think about that in a week, it's like 2 hours a week. Um, and then you'll get the real tuning. In just 2 hours in the week, you'll get the real tuning, you'll get the practical, and you have the tools afterwards to really be able to use it in your toolkit in a year's time, in 2 years' time, in 10 years'
And
time.
and as much as you're, in discussing it, kind of trying to minimize the pressure, the time pressure, I want to say from the other side of it, like, what an incredible gift to give yourself to go in and learn how you work. Like, you can journal 2 hours a week, and that's great. That's only going to be helpful. But this is like spiritual surgery. And I don't mean that it's, you're pulling angel cards. I mean, that's a type of, spiritual relationship, but it's the most grounded, practical, like you said, the tuning fork thing that I've ever done. And how much do you say? Like 8 hours a month or something?
8 to 12 hours in a month.
Hearing you say that, I'm just like, I want to take the course again and like be in that chakra 8 to 12 hours. I mean, it's just delicious to get in and not be disembodied about this stuff, because it's a very deep body level thing. And I have pictures now all over my house of like, the women in the lotus pose with the pictures of the chakras, because that's my new template. It's like, strong and open and stuff flowing. And I tell you, you start behaving like that and the universe responds.
So tell us how the universe has responded, because you've had some, let me just swear it, because that's how it is, like it occurs for me. You've had some fucking amazing and astounding results.
Well, I'm married to Brad Pitt, and we haven't alerted the press yet. No, I think like I think that
I would be truly astounded. I would be truly astounded. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I would be truly astounded too. Let me think. So in fall of 2020, I did a vision board connected to a different, not that I hadn't been influenced by you around that. And I don't know that, what do you call them? You don't call them vision boards.
I call them dream maps, but
okay, dream
same
maps.
thing.
I did it because I was feeling like some pressure financially at the end of 2020. And I'm an independent contractor. I write books with people, and I'm also a hypnotherapist. But my hypnotherapy practice had basically been on the back burner for several years. And although I love doing it, it just, yeah.
And also because you're an aspiring comedian, like your big dream and goal is to do amazing comedy work. And that's what you've been doing up until COVID hit, really trying to build your comedy career.
Yes. And there was a whole spiral with the comedy that had started in the first year and a half that I was doing it. I've been an actor my whole life and been on stage a lot, but comedy I'd only been doing professionally for like a year and a half. But there are miracles before that miracle. So I did this dream map about my hypnotherapy practice because in COVID, worrying a little about money and, just wanting to be able to earn as well as be subsidized, America for the first time gave unemployment to independent contractors, but it was a scary time. So I did a dream map about my hypnotherapy practice. And I thought, this is a skill that I have that could be global. We're now on Zoom. The whole world is acclimated to Zoom. And there's no reason to think, I've made my living with this before, that I can't step into it again. So I made a dream map. And in my experience, Donna, I find that the seeds that I plant, the vision seeds that I plant, often I'll plant them and I'll plant them hard, like with some strong desire. I sort of forget about them. And it's about a year later that it's like, boom, the shoot just shoots up through the earth and like something is obviously happening. So I did that in like October of 2020. And at the time I had done a couple hypnosis tracks for an app called Sleepiest, which is designed to help people fall asleep. And around that time, the producers of the app were like, your content's doing pretty well. And I suddenly got this, like, we like what you're doing. Can you do some more for us? So I was doing some more for them. And the spring of 2021 came around, and in the spring of 2021, they said, we want to do a podcast with you and another content creator on the app, because you guys are doing the best of anybody on the app. And we want to have you create the content, and boom, we will put it out into the world. So in October of 2021, 1 year after that dream map, we started a podcast called Sleepwave that the producers were told by other people in the podcast space, like, A, don't do it. It's just too crowded. And B, if you do it, getting 25,000 downloads in a matter of, I can't remember if it was a month or 3 months, whatever. But that would be an indicator that it's it's worth nourishing, you know,
It's legs. It's got
25,000.
legs. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had like 250,000 in that time. You know, it was like boom, like a bomb went off, and in a good way. And so that's been going since October of last year. We're over 2 million downloads at this point, and it's what, 9 months later. And that produces royalties for me. It pays me per stream. In your Vision 2021 course, my wildly improbable goal was to make my living as a performer, and suddenly, like, I'm making my living as a performer. Meanwhile, as the pandemic opened up and I was able to go back into comedy clubs and perform and get the chops back. And by the way, doing comedy is like a completely chakra experience, meaning it's live with other tuning forks in the room. And if you can be the strong tuning fork in the room and you can have everyone align with you, I mean, your jokes still have to be good, but that's what's really happening.
Yeah.
And I now, through years of meditation and your course and like eating brown rice, know how to be the tuning fork in the room. And I watch the magic happen. People don't know magic is happening, but I'm seeing it as I watch their faces and I watch their eyes light up and they go, ah. And I sit there and think to myself, this isn't me. I mean, sure, I'm the vehicle, but what they're really responding to is the vibe that's coming out of me, because it's super strong in a, like, God is doing it, but it's really strong. So, and I won a big contest by the end of last year. There was this contest at a comedy club here in Burbank where they begin at the beginning of the year and they do round after round after round, and then the quarterfinals and the semifinals. And by December, there were the finals. And this 54-year-old lady gets up on stage and boom, wins the whole thing and made $2,000 in an evening. So by the end of last year, I was making my living as a performer, and it just continues. It just continues. It's if anything, it's all about like staying in the wellness, staying in the humility, and just letting the energy build. That's my job. And yeah, just, I don't know. I think my mind's been blown quite a few times in the last couple of years, and now it's just like how to gracefully let your mind be blown again and again and again, because this stuff is limitless. Like, that's my word for this year. It's limitless. It's when you let the universe go through you, like, there's, your ego tries to set limits on that, but if you continually like fan the fire, I don't mean it's limitless like you never die, but you know, like we've learned with remote viewing and remote prayer, you know, this energy doesn't function by the laws of time and space like our dualistic lives do.
Yeah.
So when I do sleep wave and I know that I'm helping somebody and really getting deep into the consciousness of another human being who's maybe in India or in Thailand or, you know, Belgium, I really sit there in the booth and just like let the universe work through me, and it's happening. And I'm kind of, you know, you just have to laugh about it sometimes because you can't hold on to it.
And that's crown chakra stuff, right? And that's what we look at, the humor and the humility of being so deeply connected to spirit and allowing it to flow through you and knowing that it's not you. And so for me, what was also so evident was just this program flowed through me. The inspiration for doing it flowed through me as I was at a retreat center, running retreats in Portugal. I was doing lots of breath work. I'd just been through my own period of feeling really scarce, despite the fact that materially I'm abundant. And I'd been teaching about money for years and investments and all of those things. And I found myself in this emotional scarcity and this vibration of scarcity brought about by that day zero, Cape Town is running out of water in 2018 stuff. Just like a whole lot of people got smashed into scarcity by COVID and Corona and pandemics and that stuff. And, you know, for me, what's evident is that the circumstances and the challenges and the obstacles of life will continue to come. We live in that kind of world. We live in a polarized world. So doing a course like the 7 Levels of Abundance isn't like taking a magic pill and then everything is just la, la, la. And anyone who's promising you that is really unless you're going for deep enlightenment, which I don't know how it's possible. I'm not sure that that's a possibility, certainly for me in this lifetime.
Well, and I guess I want to say along those lines, like I was very primed for this course.
Yeah.
Like I've done a lot of work on myself. And like I said to you the other day, it felt like I've had these puzzle pieces for a long time, but I never knew how to put them together or let them be put together. And so, yeah, I agree. I don't want to give the impression that it's like ka-ching, but once one takes the tuning fork seriously, that's a game changer.
Yeah. And then when the obstacles and challenges do come up, for me, I find in my own life, I'm able to move through them with, and this is the word that you used earlier, grace. I'm able to move through them with a lot more ease, a lot more just like, oh, okay, this is what's coming up. What do I need to retune? Like, what do I need to work on? Like there's recently, I'm wearing my heart chakra green today. I sent out an email to everyone in my database about the heart chakra today. And I'm also doing a lot of heart chakra work because some stuff has come up in my life around that's shown me, the tuning fork is like, ooh. And so I'm doing the meditations, I'm wearing green, I'm doing the breath work, I'm doing the mudras, and it makes such a difference.
Well, and to understand, I don't know, the other thing about the tuning fork is that you have to take responsibility. Like if there's something going on in my life, I am playing a role in it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm the bad guy or the other person's the bad guy. It just means that it takes two to tango. And that's a hard place to be sometimes. And yet it's always the truth. And I can always work on my side of the street. And by working on my side of the street, sure enough, the dynamic changes.
So if you had to give an analogy of how you would describe yourself before doing 7 Levels of Abundance, how you would describe yourself afterwards, what would the description be?
I would say that I was playing with the same tools to some extent, not the exact like chakra tools, but just the idea that I'm the tuning fork, that I'm, responsible for my reality. None of that was news to me. But I feel like I was like a kid on the floor with all the construction paper trying to like make my life happen. That's not entirely fair to myself, but that image keeps coming versus being it. Like I get that when I walk in a room, I'm bringing the tuning fork and it's not an idea. That has changed. Oh, the other thing I did during the pandemic was start that gratitude podcast, which I had you on.
Yes.
And that was also this incredible exercise in strengthening my aura and in taking a reactive position in life, going from a reactive, like that, this happens to me and what's going on and watching the news and all of that, to no. I am not just the tuning fork, but like the electromagnetic event and strengthening it. That was a huge game changer too. But yeah, I would say I was playing with the ideas and understanding them and had some of the puzzle pieces, but boy, when I unlocked those 3 chakras that are deficient, it was like,
why did you trust me to be your coaching guide, signing up for a 7-month program?
Brad Pitt told me to trust you. It's like, it's so funny that I'm like imagining myself with, come on, he's getting old. He's like a has-been. I should be the next one with Pete Davidson is what I'm trying to say. I trusted you because in the courses that I've done with you, and I've said this to people too, I've never met anyone who can take yin, expansive, woo-woo ideas and bring them down to like this yang grounded reality. And you can take grounded, practical, real things like investments and money and connect them with the yin expanded truths of our feelings, our ideas, and God. And you have a real gift in that way. You're like a bridge between, and I've studied macrobiotic cooking for 30 years, and it's all about yin and yang. It's all about the balance that we strike in our lives. And you strike it so beautifully. So I mean, I don't want to like fangirl too much because it's embarrassing to both of us, but I'm happy to pay money every month in the Vision 2021 to 22 course just to have you in my life. Like, I may not always do the things. I mean, I
Yeah.
whatever, I may not always get like this result now that I want. It's not a perfect journey, and I don't get to decide the journey. I just get to expand into it. But your being there as a coach or a handholder or a teacher, because you're a very good teacher, is very precious to me. And it's like part of one's enlightenment, or the part of the Eightfold Path, is right association,
Mm.
meaning the correct people you surround yourself with and that you interact with on a regular basis, and the vibration that they're vibrating at, and that they understand what you're doing and where you're coming from. And I consider you like a very, very valuable part of my world. And I didn't know you from Adam. I started, my first class I ever took with you was in 2019. So it
Yep.
hasn't been that long. And yet you have become part of like, the firmament for me of high vibration people. And I would,
Thank you.
if you told me to like eat a frog, I'd be like, Donna said eat frog. Now I don't, I'm not like that, but I trust you. I
Yeah.
trust you.
Okay. So what surprised you most about the 7 Levels of Abundance program?
I think what surprised me most about the program itself or the results?
Either.
What's coming to me is, in a way, how much I enjoyed it. Like, and I don't mean it was like, I mean, some of it was hard, but the fruits of it were so real. Like when you're sitting in the second chakra,
Which is the
and
sacral chakra for people who
yeah, and
don't
it's about
know.
creativity and sensation and like the sensory world, and you start doing an exercise every morning where you move your hips, and I was like, wow, we get to move our hips. Like that's like a healthy spiritual thing to like do hip circles every morning. And there were parts of it that I found like really juicy because
Pleasurable.
yeah, and it's like the science of being alive.
Mm.
And I'm way into that. I'm like, on my gravestone, I wanted to say she was here. Like I really, really was in my life.
Mm.
And so, as much as there were some chakras that like excited me more than others, it was really the ones that I felt deficient in or shame about or whatever, that it gave me extreme joy to step into that with your hand holding and the group, and it was like permission to be fully alive. And I love that. I love that.
Awesome. So I am delighted because I reached out to Jessica and I asked her if she would do a special group hypnotherapy session, because her hypno is making impact on millions of people around the world now. And she has agreed. And so she is going to be doing a bonus hypnotherapy session with whoever has signed up for the 7 Levels of Abundance program by today, the end of today, whatever time the end of today is in your time zone. So if you're in California, like Jessica is, then it's the end of the 1st of September, 11:59 p.m. If you sign up before then we will honor that you get the group hypnotherapy session, and we'll also be recording that track and giving it to you. And that is really to add to the toolkit, the 7 Levels of Abundance toolkits, to help with the hypnotherapy, just going into the subconscious and making that energy clearing easier, lighter. Yeah, without you having to do any work.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of hypnotherapy. I was also really grateful and appreciative to do Jessica's hypnobirthing. and her hypno tracks around birthing my son Luke, who came
Mm.
as a result of doing 7 Levels of Abundance work, and conceiving him came. I conceived him in sacral chakra month. Like, that's how powerful this work is.
Wow.
2 weeks into sacral chakra month, I conceived my son at the age of 44. So yeah, we're going to be doing the hypnotherapy as a group. Anyone who's done, I think we've got over 25, 30 people who've already joined us. So we're going to do a beautiful group hypnotherapy. And if you are listening to this and you want to join today, you'll get that and the track, and then the bonus track for you to use whenever afterwards. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Is there anything else you'd like to say before I kiss you goodbye?
I guess without sounding like an advertisement, it's coming fully from every cell of my being. Like, if someone's on the fence, like, this is one of the greatest investments in myself I've ever made. And I can't imagine not having done it at this point. So if anyone's on the fence, boom, I encourage you to jump off. And that's it. Awesome. And thank you, Donna. Thank you. I feel like I don't have to meditate today because I've just been.
Go and meditate anyway. As your guide and your coach, yes, I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Go and tune the tuning fork. Go and meditate anyway. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, honey. Take care. See you later.